What's good, mi gente? How's it going? This is your boy Raul. Welcome, welcome. I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to come up here. Starting off, LinkedIn's giving us some issues, so if you aren't able to get us on LinkedIn, please let people know to come check us out on YouTube. But thank you so much. Today is a special event where we're starting off my Palanta series. We're trying to focus on more specific task-related items. So this one is going to be a job search workshop. So I have two very great guests. Let me pop them on the screen here so we can introduce ourselves. My bad, everybody. Looks like my network went down, so issues with live streaming. So we'll start off again. Um, I have my guests here that I'd like to introduce. Just give me 1 second to pop them up. And so I'd like to introduce Adan Hernandez. Adan, how's it going?
Hey Raul, I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right. Thank you so much. Can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell the world a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, my name is Adan. I am a recruiter. I've been a recruiter going on about 12 years, and have worked um, both on the agency side and the corporate in-house side, and in both public and private sector. And I'm currently a uh, a recruiter for the University of Virginia, working remotely out of LA. So I'm excited to be here and to talk about um, a lot of great things, regarding job search and the nuances, and we can just kind of dissect it from there. Lots of things
Nice.
to share.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Also, I have Rene Garcia. How's it going, Rene? If for anybody who's listened to the podcast, you might have caught Rene's episode before. Rene, you want to introduce yourself a little
Hey,
bit?
absolutely. Good to be here, Raul. Good to see your face again, and also Adan. My name is Rene Garcia. I am a psychotherapist based out of the DFW area. There, I own and am the lead clinician for Garcia Mental Health. That is my private practice where I specialize in treating adult men and couples. And just really excited to be here, have this conversation with you because it absolutely comes up a lot. Job role, changing of jobs. And I feel like this topic is like very, very fresh right now. So I'm happy to be here.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. So I guess we'll start off a little bit and we'll talk with Adan and then we'll come back to you, Rene. All right. Thank you. Adan, so you are a
Yeah.
recruiter. And so I guess to kind of start off, a lot of us, I have myself included at some point, have had time where we've been looking for work and have struggled, and we've had a lot of questions and concerns, and things that might kind of derail us while we're looking for work. And so we wanted to take your expertise to kind of give us some information. So I think let's start a little bit about resumes. What are some of the big things that misunderstandings that people have when it comes to their resume?
Yeah. Well, one thing, one main point of discussion that I always get about a resume is, that it need to be one page, and is more than one page too much? And the answer, really depends on where you are within your career. Obviously somebody that is very new in their career and doesn't have much experience to add onto their resume, I would keep it to one page. Of course, the longer that you are in your career, it is okay to have multiple pages on your resume. I think that 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 was a rule that was put for everybody years ago, but it's just not the case anymore. It could definitely be multiple pages, and I would also suggest going into, as far as a format of a resume, that it should be chronological, from top to bottom, starting at your most recent and going to past experience, and it should be bullet pointed as well. Bullet points, there's always this topic of conversation, bullet points versus paragraphs. Really, bullet points is a lot easier for a recruiter to read and look and scan a resume, to look at skills and key achievements that are highlighted. You really want to put a lot of good information, quantifiable information, things that you've done, and achievements that you made in your current or past roles in those bullet points.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good stuff you brought up, because for a long time when I was looking for work, I always try to keep everything within one page, squish as much, reduce the font, and then someone was like that, recruiters are people just like you. They don't want to have to squint and look and make your resume difficult. So and the bullet point ones is a great thing, because who wants to write paragraphs? I hate those trying to come up. And should you be organizing that in order of like the most important things up top, or does it just like what you've done?
Yeah, I think that you definitely want to start off, kind of within those bullet points, the general, a general description of your day-to-day job duties. And then as you go, as you move down, definitely more towards the top, you'll definitely want to put some key achievements that you were able to accomplish, projects that you worked on, that you were able to be a part of. If you led a project, then definitely highlight in there that you led a project and drove it to completion, and what did you complete, what did you complete and what did you accomplish, and how was it beneficial to the organization that you're working for? Those are very key important things, because those will be interview questions, when you're going into an interview as well. So it's, as a recruiter, those are things that we will definitely look at. Of course, we look at tons of resumes a day and a week, and so they need to be key things kind of toward the front so we can scan them pretty quickly, and then we'll dig deeper in a screen that we'll have with you as a candidate.
And so you said the word scan. So are most resumes now being looked at through like a machine, or is it?
No, we're talking about visually scanning with our eyes, essentially. We're when we have candidates applying for a role, a recruiter, will, depending on what that number looks like, we will go and look at, with ours each resume. But obviously, there have been times most recently where I've had 300 candidates apply for a job in 24 hours, and I have to shut the posting down. We'll look at all the candidates, but we can also filter and type in for keyword searches. This is another point of discussion where keywords within your resume. This is why you need to have a lot of good information and keywords within your bullet points, because we'll search for those things to really have your resume stick out.
Yeah, keywords are kind of an interesting topic, because it's also kind of scary for a lot of us, because we don't really know what the right keywords are to use. One of the tricks I started doing is every time I get a new job and I get hired, I take the blurb that they sent me with the job, and I put that right on my resume, because it's written by HR. They've included those keywords that they're looking for. But what are other ways that people can do to know like what's the right keywords to use?
Yeah. So here's what I would recommend is, as you're looking at a job description, you're going to want to look at, I would typically start at the requirements piece, because you're going to have two pieces to a job description. You're going to have the job responsibilities, and then you have the job requirements, which the job requirements really outlines what they're truly looking for, in a candidate. So it could say, something like bachelor's degree, and it could say something, it should more than likely list the technologies or tools that they use. And so if you use those tools, let's say, for example, you're applying for a sales role, and Salesforce is a tool is a CRM that they use, and you use Salesforce, and be sure that's in your resume. Sales, and then you go into the job responsibilities, and it says, led business development for $5 million quota, something like that. So you're going to want to put those things in your resume. That way they'll come up, because those are things as recruiters we're going to go and look for: Salesforce, sales, business development, growth. So just look at the job description and start with the requirements, and then go into the job responsibilities and take key things out of there.
Yeah, so in essence, if I want to look for a job in IT somewhere, and this is a job I speak on, and I see the jobs, and this is the skills you're looking for, it's beneficial to take some of those words in there and make sure it's on my resume before I send them, right?
100%. Yeah, because it'll also make our job as a recruiter, especially if we're getting hundreds of resumes a day, to we will filter through those. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's a lot more efficient on our end to go and look for those keywords. And it's very different depending on the industry that you're in. I've worked, in the tech industry, where I just get a couple of resumes a day and I can go through all of them. But I've also worked, within just the bigger sector, where I have a ton of resumes and I have to filter through them.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like with everything, you're just human, and there's only so much you can do. And so
yeah. Well, and the goal is to get through all of them, and so that everybody is seen. There's definitely an assumption that a machine is reading all your resumes and filtering them out automatically. And it's not the case. The recruiter is in one way or another going to touch and review your resume at some point.
Nice. Yeah. And so, I mean, what other ways can we, pop out when it comes to recruiting? Does a cover letter help? Like, is that something that we need to put on our resume when we send it out?
Yeah, and that's a good thing to point out as well, because in the past, for being a recruiter for 12 years, we don't always read cover letters, just to be honest with you. However, I think it is in this day and age where we have a ton of people on the market looking for a job. I mean, we almost have, with the unemployment rate the way that it is, I mean, it's super low, but we still have a lot of people looking for jobs and trying to get people, in front of, to get them to stand out. So I think a cover letter is a good use of time for you right now. I think it's definitely beneficial. It's something that recruiters will go and look at, especially if they want to dig a little deeper. If they want to dig a little deeper into, what your motivation is for looking for a job. Maybe you applied for a job that you're not completely qualified for, and but you have transferable skills, that relate to the job description. You can use a cover letter to really outline that, and it'll definitely make you shine a lot more. So I think it's a good idea to have a cover letter. I don't think that it's a waste of time, like I would say years ago, but I would definitely put a cover letter together.
And also, I think especially on my resume, there's usually a little blurb. The same thing you see on LinkedIn, a little blurb on top that gives kind of a basic, this is who I am, and kind of the general experiences that I have with some keywords and stuff like that. Is that necessary as well?
I don't think that a highlight, it's called like an overview statement at the beginning. I don't think that is completely necessary anymore. I will say that 9 times out of 10, a recruiter will not read that. We're more focused on the roles that you've been in and with the work that you've done and the tools that you've used, and the accomplishments that you've had and been able to make, the impact that you've made in the organizations you've worked at. So I don't think that is necessary at all. So don't, lose sleep trying to put something like that together to make sure that it's perfect. What I would, suggest is that as you're putting those things that you've used in the meat of your resume, at the bottom, you can add it again, tools used, colon, and list them all out. Softwares, trainings, certifications. I would put all that at the bottom of your resume.
Okay. And then another thing too is when we have people fresh out of college, the big thing is always, I'm going to put my education, my GPA, I want that high and whatever. At what point is that no longer necessary?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, here's the deal. If you are someone that is just graduated from college and you're applying for a job, we're not going to ask you what your GPA is. We really more so are, if it is a requirement for the job that you have that you have a bachelor's degree or a college degree and you completed it. We just want to know when you completed it, what the date was, and that's it. So a GPA is really not very important. That's unless you're applying for an internship. So, those are types of things that they'll ask for. But if you're applying for an internship, put your GPA on there. But if for a full-time job coming out of college, it's we just care that you finished, and that's it. If it's a requirement,
So you're like my parents. All you care about is me finishing. So
as long as you finished and you got the job done, then that's what we care about. But
nice. And so the another thing is, you've seen a lot of resumes. What are some things that for sure will bomb your opportunities? If you grabbed the resume and you saw these couple of things and you're like, you know what, you're for sure not getting a call back.
Oh man, well, I have seen, I've seen some resumes that have a lot of spelling errors in them, and so. There could be many reasons for that, but I would, there could be other issues, with that, that are not relevant. But, for me, that, when I look at that, it could be attention to detail, and so those can be issues. If there's clearly a like job hopping, if it looks like you've had a job every 6 months, those are things that used to be a thing really in the past, where we would look at that and say, this person has been jumping from jobs every 6 months. What's going on? Red flag. Right now, based on the climate of, the economy, especially with people getting laid off a lot, ever since COVID, where that's not looked at so terribly anymore, because people take contract jobs. They've been doing consulting. And so I would say, just kind of interject this piece in there. If you're doing contract work, you should list contract. This was contract job, contract ended on this date. That way we know as recruiters, hey, this person wasn't just jumping jobs. They were just doing some consulting gigs. I've also seen people send me copies of their tax records. I've had people, put little headlines. What was one? Someone put something about they don't waste time, they waste money. And I just thought, what is that supposed to mean? So they're trying to get my attention, but it was a really wrong way to try to get my attention. Mm-hmm. And putting a picture on your resume is not necessary either. And I definitely see that. I think it's great, it's creative, but it's not necessary at all, because we're not going to use your picture as a way to qualify you for a job.
And so now this kind of ties into the future, the future technology now and the way things are. We spend a lot of time sometimes on our resume, and then we apply for a job and we got to refill in all that information again, and then we also got to put it on LinkedIn. Oh, I think I lost you, Adan. Okay, let me bring you back. Give me 1 second. Hey, we got you back. Okay, good. Sorry about that. So back to the question. If you end up, what's one way to get your LinkedIn profile to pop when it comes to the resume on LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, when we're looking at when you think about LinkedIn, LinkedIn is it's a social media site. So this is where this differentiates from what I just said, or steers away from what I just said about a picture. Obviously, you're going to want a picture on your LinkedIn because it's a professional social media site, and it needs to be a professional photo. I have seen pictures of people on the beach, people getting drunk at a bar. I've seen a lot of interesting pictures, and it should be just you and not a bunch of people. So it should be definitely a professional photo, or of just you with a plain background. And there should be in LinkedIn, there should be some kind of headline, in LinkedIn, it really outlines, your current position or your career aspirations. I can tell you, mine, says, that I'm, experienced talent acquisition specialist with a demonstrated history of working in the commercial real estate industry and tech industry, which is what I've focused on. And then it has the types of roles I've recruited on: sales, recruiting, DEI recruiting, campus recruitment, high volume cycle recruitment. So that should be, something that, if I look at your LinkedIn, I'll start at the top and go to the bottom, and the headline should definitely be there for sure. And then it doesn't. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I was just gonna say, I would really try to put a lot of the key points from your resume in your LinkedIn, because if I'm a recruiter and you're a candidate that I'm searching on LinkedIn looking for candidates, and you have your full resume on there, well, that saves me a lot of time, because I reach out to you and I already know that you're qualified for the job that I'm looking for, that I'm recruiting on, and your keywords will be in LinkedIn as well. So those will pop up too. Just as long as there's no proprietary information or anything that you don't want to share publicly. Yeah, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Should the LinkedIn be beefier or a summary of your resume? Should it have more details in your resume, or like will you come and read more from then than you would a resume, or should it just kind of be the same?
Definitely will do. I'll do the same kind of scan that I do with a resume. If you have if you have more details in your LinkedIn, then it will definitely make you more searchable when it is, and some people may not want this, but if people that are kind of quietly looking for a job, it will make it easier for me to go into the recruiter tool in LinkedIn and do a keyword search for, let's say I'm looking for employee relations business partners, where I'm looking for attorneys, people that have been attorneys and practice employment law. You have all that in your LinkedIn from your resume. All I have to do is search for employment law and, JD and those types of things. So I think that that's where, I would definitely put that detail in there for sure.
Nice. Yeah. So the other question I had for LinkedIn was, right now I think we talked about showing up on keyword searches and keyword searches and keyword searches. And one of the things that people have always told me, and I don't know if it's true, was to keep your LinkedIn profile fresh, so you'll show up higher on the list because you more recently modified your profile. So like one of the things I would always do when I was looking for work was I'd go in like once a month and do like a quick edit and delete it, and then like re-edit it just so my modified date show up sooner. So is that something that actually happens? Like, do you see them based off of when the last time they modified the resume? So if there's 100 of us, maybe I'll show up a top 10 as opposed to the bottom, or is it more keyword related?
No, not necessarily. It's more keyword related, but what I would recommend doing is, actively scrolling through LinkedIn, look for articles and posts that interest you, that you also feel like the people that are in your network are going to engage with, and share them, and put in the post, hashtags that will relate to that. And LinkedIn is really good about putting together an algorithm that will look for keywords based on the posts that you're posting, and also really just by typing a first letter, it will come up with some suggestions. And so I would suggest doing that, and that's in getting your profile in a feed. That way, and that will get people to come and engage with you. I can tell you that my LinkedIn engagement has been, within the past 24 hours, is pretty high, because I shared the post about this, session. Mm-hmm. And so, I would suggest doing that. We won't be able to see if you updated your profile. That's not something that will populate in my feed. So I would go and look at posts that interest you and share those.
Okay. And then what about those skills? So lots of times you get these things that say, recommend Raul for a skill of Microsoft Word, or, and it's like random people I might have worked with, or colleagues and stuff. And then some people post, I've completed this LinkedIn course. How much weight does that actually hold?
Yeah, I think it's it's just one of those things that will add more more to your profile. I mean, if you have you have the ability to recommend somebody for or endorse skills, on somebody else's profile, it takes 2 seconds. Just do it, because it'll just add more to theirs, and request that they do the same for you. So I think that's, it's definitely, it definitely adds credibility, and recommendations, for, qualitative insights, into your abilities. So I think that, it also shows that people, in your network, believe in your skills as well, even if they don't, at least it adds that in there. And referrals as well. I have former managers that endorse, me on, my profile, that, talk about the accomplishments that I've made, and how I've worked as a team member, people that I've supported. Be sure that you get those on your profile and you do the same for them as well.
Okay, yeah, nice. And one of the big things with LinkedIn, so for me personally, LinkedIn has been kind of how I've gotten my last, I think, 3 jobs, two or
Yeah.
three jobs.
Yeah.
So I've been reached out by recruiters through my LinkedIn profile. So is LinkedIn being used more by recruiters to get people? Like, should people really looking for work focus
Yes.
on LinkedIn?
Yes, 100%. You have not only LinkedIn, but you have one of the things that we were talking about. Yeah, I mean, yeah, recruiters are using LinkedIn, to go and look for candidates. And so, yeah, you want to, and also you should use LinkedIn to go look for a job as well. But you can also use like Google Jobs, which Google will scrap. If you do a search in Google, they'll scrap um, all of the jobs for every job board. It'll come up in a search, a search that you put. I'll do a search for senior recruiter remote jobs, and it'll pop up every recruit remote or remote recruiter role that's open on all the job boards. But LinkedIn is a lot more efficient, because you can go and you can do research on the company. You can go and look at the people that work at work at that company that you want to apply to. You can look for recruiters. You can look for the HR person. Sometimes it's a matter of just sending a very quick message. I would not recommend writing a novel about all of your skills and everything. I would more so recommend saying, hey, I'm interested in this role. I'm on the market. I'm interested in this role. I went ahead and applied. Would you be interested in connecting for just a few minutes in the next week or so to discuss further? And you can send your resume too. And if they can't get you, if they don't have any information, then they can get you in front of the right person. I always tell people,
I think it's my network. I apologize. Yeah, I'm here. My network is being real slow today. Of all days to go get slow internet. So sorry about that. So can you go back to what you were saying? Sorry.
are we back on?
Yeah, we're back on.
Yeah. No, what I was saying. Okay, awesome. No, what I was just saying is that it's still beneficial to reach out to people that work at a company. You're reaching out to them on LinkedIn, even if you don't know who they are, you don't know them personally. What do you have to lose by sending somebody a message? I get a ton of messages as a recruiter, and I do my best to reply to as many. If I don't have any
This is getting ridiculous on me. I apologize. Okay. 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 Back. Oh man, something's going on with my system, guys. I apologize. Yeah. Okay, so I think I got us back. Sorry about that, guys. Something's going on with my system. Everything wants to go to crap the day we go live, so that's just the nature of the beast. But so I guess let's kind of wrap things up a little bit. I think the last couple of questions I have really is, you're a recruiter. I get hit up by recruiters sometimes, and it's hard to determine who is a legit recruiter and like what the purpose of a recruiter is.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is a recruiter's job when a recruiter calls you, and how can we determine whether or not this recruiter is a legit person actually trying to give me a job?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first of all, legitimate recruiter will work for an established firm or in-house at at an established company. They'll also uh, I would say they won't ask you for sensitive information or money as well during a call. I've heard horror stories where people have taken a call from a recruiter and they've asked for, they've offered them a job, over the phone in the first call, and they're asking for their direct deposit info, and people have fallen for it and have lost money. There's a lot of scammers out there from that aspect of things, which is a whole other topic to discuss. But especially in the times right now where unfortunately a lot of recruiters are looking for a job right now because they're the first teams to go in a layoff. There's a lot of people taking advantage of that. So definitely go and look at the LinkedIn profiles of this is why LinkedIn is so important too, to check their validity, check their LinkedIn profiles. Don't give them sensitive information. and ask them questions. Dig a little bit. Ask them to provide details about the role that they're calling about, the company that they're either representing, that they work in house for, or that they're being a consultant for. So just ask a lot of questions.
Sure. And what's it called? Do recruiters get paid based off of what you get paid, or is it, are they trying to push you to get more, or are they just trying to get you a job?
So if you were talking to it depends on where they work and what kind of recruiters they are. If you are dealing with an agency recruiter, or what we call it, a headhunter, 9 times out of 10 they're commission based, and it will, they're billing a certain amount of hours. So they could be. So yeah, in that case, yes, they will make more commission based off how much how much you will make. If you were talking with a corporate in-house recruiter, listen, we get salary. We don't make anything. We don't make anything special, no matter how much you make. We're going to try to be as honest and equitable as possible, and that will also depend on you as well. When you're talking salary ranges with a recruiter, be sure you provide a range and think about what is, do your research, into, looking at different job descriptions to see what the market is, but think about yourself as well. Put a range together, and I would think about yourself first when presenting a salary range. But
yeah. And if and it's a good point with the salary range too. Let's say you do get the job and you get offered a salary. Should you take that first salary range, or should you always decline and ask for more?
I would say go into it knowing that everything is up for negotiation. It's really important to talk about salary in the first conversation that you have with a recruiter. It's about setting expectations. As a recruiter, when I talk to candidates, we talk about salary in the very first conversation. And candidates, some candidates are a little, think it's a little fast, and you're a little hesitant to discuss those details. But I explain that I don't want to surprise them at the end, and I don't want them to surprise me. And in many states right now, there are pay transparency laws where you have to you have to post the job, the salary range in the job posting. And so in that case, going into an offer, if you already know what the salary range is, you've already kind of discussed that on the front end, you kind of know what you're going into from a pay perspective. But go into it also knowing that everything is up for negotiation as well.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we have some technical difficulties today, so
No problem.
hopefully get you back on the podcast another day and have a little more clear-cut discussions as well. So
yeah, we can go deeper into so many things. I really appreciate you just letting me be a part of this. And I'm happy to do this again for sure.
Sure, no problem. What's it called? Is there social anything you wanna spread?
Yeah, well, you can follow me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the main thing that I would have you follow me at. Also, my current Instagram handle is Adan Los Angeles, and I have an X or Twitter account, but I don't remember the handle right now. I don't use it very often. So,
yeah,
but you can follow me on those platforms. Thank you for your time.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I'm gonna go over to Rene now. Hey, Rene.
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
How's it going, dude? Thank you so much for just hanging in there through all this stuff.
Adan just gave. Yeah, he deserves he needs a full show. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, we need a whole like 2
a-
episode kit on him because he's got so much information to provide. I think hopefully once I get this stuff ironed out as far as live passing, we'll do like a Q&A session with people. I think where people can ask live questions, as we ask the recruiter type of event. So.
Oh yeah, and I'll jump in too because I was on the job search really early on in my, just because you have a master's degree and you have these professional licenses doesn't mean that you're still not applying just to a business. Like everything's a business, a church is a business, and so like to have like expertise and people who do this every single day, like in your corner, dropping you hints and tips like Adan. I mean, it's a friend of mine is married to an HR director, and I just remember asking her so many questions, and she gave me so much good advice. And he needs his own show. Let's just be real here.
Yeah, real. Well, you're a mental health professional, and I think one of the big things that happens during a job search is the mental health drama that people go through during the process of applying for a job. From starting off from, hey, I have to build the courage to actually go look for a job and decide I don't want to stick with this crappy job I'm working at anymore. So, that being said, what are some, as far as job security, what are some of the things that to be aware of, as far as mentally, that you got to keep an eye out when you start, doing that job search process?
Yeah, job searches to me I work with my clients a lot in this area. Like I said at the top of the show, my specialty is working with adult men. And, during the pandemic, it was not uncommon. I had a lot of guys come in at that time and say, I lost my job, and, I was the head of my income of my family, and now I don't know what to do, and I'm having to start over in this job hunt. And so I think, the most important thing to do is just call a spade a spade. A job search can be very stressful. It can have its ups and it can have its downs. But at the end of the day, I think there are things to improve the search and improve the experience. And I think one thing to do is, obviously, number one is to work on yourself and ask yourself, you are the product, right? You are the person that you're trying to get this recruiter or to get this company to buy into. So really, how are you working on yourself and to, better prepare for presenting yourself as this product, as this person, this expertise? And I think a lot of these things, I sit down with my clients, and before they go in there, say, okay, like, where are you at right now in this job hunt? Like, are you in a place where there is a desperate, like maybe a little bit of desperation or a little bit of fear or a little bit of anxiety? Because I think all these things are kind of natural when you're in that job hunt. And also being able to set some realistic expectations when you go into this job search. Okay, before I even start this search, what am I expecting from this? What's making me want to even initiate this job hunt? And what am I bringing in from previous job searching experiences that can assist me in this job hunt? Let's say that I applied for one job, I sat in for the interview, and it did not go well, right? So what did we learn about yourself, about the interview process that can better improve this chances? And I think at the most part is afterwards, what are we doing after to celebrate just the fact that you went through that process? I think making sure you realize that it is not easy to go through this job hunt. And, I think the fact that you even getting up there, being able to put yourself out in front of people, have this conversation, sit through your feelings is a lot. And I think that should be rewarded as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects of the job search journey that for a lot of us builds intimidation. Even like starting off, let's say from the beginning, you work at a job, you're depressed about your pay, you're depressed about the amount of hours you do, you're not getting the recognition you are. But even then, people stick for way too long sometimes. Emotionally, how can you convince yourself and help build that confidence to start recognizing that, yeah, maybe it's time for me to leave?
Yeah, I have been in this position personally,
Yeah, we've all had.
and it is not a fun place to be. I think for me, in my own personal experience, the writing was on the walls the second I walked in there. And I think that's something you kind of have to be honest with yourself about too. You got to have some values that you prioritize into any new role you take. One of mine is that, one of the companies that I really started out with, it was a mental health facility based out of Houston. People had been there for 15, 20 years, over 20 years. And that to me was a sign of like, wow, that's something's keeping these people here. And I went to another facility that will go unnamed and go undescribed. But when I walked in there, one of the first things they said is, oh, counselors stay here maybe a couple of months. That's it. And that kind of thing is like, okay, you want to start taking notes of that, and you want to start picking up on things. And I think, I'm very encouraging of people to not make rash or impulsive decisions because, again, at least for me, I have a daughter. Now I have a wife. And for me to just say, you know what, I don't want to be in this job. I'm just going to disconnect. I'm just going to quit. That may be good for my personality and my mental health, but I just don't know if that'd be good for my finances and the overall well-being of my family. So I think you have to make sure that you make a strategic decision. I think this is a really great time to either sit down with a therapist or maybe even a mentor. I'm sure, Adan can speak extensively about this more than I can, but mentors and supervisors, at least in the mental health field, are absolutely necessary to reach out and consult and just put that extra hand out there to say, hey, is this normal? am I supposed to be feeling this way? Is this supposed to be a normal situation? And those mentors and supervisors can say yes, no, or let's talk about it. And I think those conversations, and especially I'm just recalling that situation I was in, when I walked in there, counselors hadn't been there for long, and I started getting that own personal feeling. I remember reaching out to old supervisors, and they confirmed those feelings. This is not a good place. This doesn't seem like a really supportive place. What are you getting if you stay here? What are you getting if you leave? And I think just doing that simple exercise was enough for me to say, you know what, I think I really need to start seeing what else is out there. And I did. And I think it was one of the best decisions. And so I think that's the thing. I work with a lot of people and a lot of different types of people. And one of the things I tell consistently is you got to listen to your gut. If your gut is telling you, man, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel good, I don't feel happy, I don't know, I really trust that. And as a therapist, I would want to explore that conversation a lot.
Yeah, it's I think like you said, it's always lots of times when you do leave a job, you're right. Like, the writing's on the wall. Like, you realize, okay, why did I stay for so long? Or, and it's hard. Sometimes I think especially for like Latinos, sometimes we're used to the put your head down and just go to work and just be grateful you have a job. But I think it could always
Yeah.
be a little more for that. But then we go to the flip side. You start a new job. You've done the job search. We've talked about job search and job search depression, and how that can affect you mentally. But also, let's say you get the job, you're starting that job now, and you know um, you feel kind of out of it. You don't feel like you deserved it. You get that what people call imposter syndrome. What are some of the things to recognize that you're dealing with that and to cope with it?
Great conversation. And I'm going to default that a lot of my answers will be the same as that. What a great conversation for therapy, right?
Yeah.
Like, something is telling you on the inside that you don't deserve this job. You should not be here. You do not have the skill set to be successful at this job. Yet the HR people, the CEO, the director, whoever, the supervisor said, you know what? No, I want to take a chance on this person. And I think that imposter syndrome, a lot of the times, if I have to be honest, is a lot of our internal struggle and internal self-confidence. And even to the point where you may have that job and you checked all the boxes. And even if you didn't check the boxes, again, there was something inside of you that displayed that, you know what, you were absolutely perfect for this job. And the company decided to take a chance on you. And so I think this imposter syndrome, to me, again, has a lot to do with just kind of, who we are as people and who we are as individuals, and how do we judge ourselves? How do we give these opportunities that we get a chance? Now, obviously, somebody saw something in you, and that's a great thing. And I think, I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody has this trauma or this like childhood experience that is making them difficult to accept and acknowledge their accomplishments. But I think, sometimes we tend to overthink things, and we tend to really get stuck and hold ourselves back to say, this is a great thing. And yeah, you may not have been perfect, but chances are they weren't looking for the most perfect candidate. They're looking for the candidate that really fit this position the best. And that may not be the sterling gold, model person that you may think it was. And that's okay. And
Okay, I think I got you back. You back?
I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. So sorry about that. Can you repeat that last part? Whatever part you
Yeah,
did.
for sure. It's just, I think for me, I just want to be able to provide a space for clients to really understand like where these feelings come from. And, a lot of the times I think, in my experience in this conversation, people tend to think, well, I'm not the perfect candidate. There's got to be someone better. And it's not about someone better or worse for the position. It's the idea of, did you meet the requirements that the people were looking for? And if you did, that's why they gave you a chance. And it's really your job to sit here and really say, okay, if I'm in this position, what are you doing to take advantage of it? How are you showing that you deserve to be here? How are you working with them, working with, supervisors, mentors, even peers to say, hey, you know what? I'm just trying to figure myself out here. And I think that can be, especially in the age of like, Zoom meetings and like everything being online, that can be kind of disconnected of you just being connected to your peers. And maybe this is a natural experience of being in this role, and that's okay, but you won't know it until you're having these conversations with peers, having this conversation in a therapy room. And it's just a exercise of being vulnerable. And I think that's a really important place to be.
Yeah, I think yeah, you make a good point. The whole concept, like being vulnerable, and I think that's what the uncomfortableness comes from, where people don't like feeling vulnerable, and um, so they either avoid the opportunity or they kind of beat themselves up because they do feel vulnerable. I know with like imposter syndrome, it'll even rely, like you said, you don't have to be the perfect candidate, but sometimes you're like you read a blurb for a job and you say, I don't meet like all those criteria, I'm not even going to apply. And I think I used to have that mentality before, and then now I'm kind of like, fuck it, apply. Let them decide whether or not I'm good or not. And then sometimes you get this job I have now, and I've never felt that way in a long time. That I was like, oh my god, I don't deserve to be here. You kick
Uh-oh,
ass
I
at
think
your
I lost
job, but it took a while to get through it. So are you there? You're real quiet. Sorry, Renee, did I lose you again? I lost you again for a second.
uh, uh,
Oh yeah,
yeah, acceptable.
I just lost you again.
Unacceptable. I would never.
Okay, so I think we're back. Yay, internet. That's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work next time a little better. But sorry about that, guys. So I guess Renee, I don't remember what the last thing we were talking about. So I guess
we're
sorry.
Yeah, we're talking about our relationships with our dads. So we're gonna go around the room and who
Yeah,
wants to
exactly,
start?
exactly. Yeah. No, but I think one of the last things that I want to talk about is, what are some things you can do, like we get for an interview. Interviews are anxious, you get nervous,
Yeah.
you try to prepare, but even then there's a level of anxiety. What are what are some things we can do to cope with anxiety outside of going to your therapist again and talking to them? I'm on the way to an interview, I'm in my car. What can I do to help myself feel better about, going to getting prepared for the interview?
For some reason, we tend to think that anxiety is like a four-letter word, and for me, I look at anxiety as a sign, right? If you're anxious about something, you got to ask yourself, okay, why am I feeling this anxiety? If you're anxious about a job interview, yeah, chances are you want to do good on the interview and you want to get the job. So to me, that anxiety seems very natural. It's supposed to be there. So it's the issue to where now we start feeding the anxiety, we start addressing it with maladaptive decisions, or we start just kind of to ignore it, trying to ignore it. What I like to tell my clients is when you're feeling anxious about something, we got to lean into it, not lean away from it. And what I mean by that is, okay, so if you're nervous about this interview, what are we doing to best prepare for it? How are we doing practice sessions? How are we sitting down with maybe a coach? How are we sitting down with a friend? Hey, ask me some questions. I just want to prepare for it. Let's say you're interviewing for a really big company or a company you're maybe not too familiar with. How are you doing your research on the company? So the idea is you got to ask yourself what you have to pinpoint it. If we just say I'm anxious, that's a really big word. That's a really big descriptor. We got to figure out what you're anxious about for the entire process, and then let's target that. Okay, if you're anxious about speaking about yourself, cool, let's do. They don't want to hear a whole story. I'm sure Adan could say, I don't want to hear your life story. I just want to know give me a few things, top 10 top 2 things, 3 things. What do I want to hear? I do not want to hear a relationship with your brother and sister. Yeah, 3 things that I should know about your life. That's it. What should you know about, they're going to ask probably a lot of similar questions. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are things you need to work on? Lean into these questions, kind of have your own preparedness for it. And then the idea isn't to, hit a home run. It isn't to get the $1 million job. It's just to get that next interview. Once I get past this interview, how do I get to that next interview? And it's all a step-by-step process. But to me, anxiousness, anxiety about this whole process, it just seems natural. It just seems like it's supposed to be there. So it's not a bad thing. It's just a flag. It's an indicator. It's, a notice for you to say, what are the things that are making me feel anxious? And that just makes you a normal human being, actually.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I've been feeling real anxious today about this podcast, this webcast, and everything that could go wrong did. So I'm recognizing, and I'm, I'm talking about it with a therapist. So I think it all worked out today. So, but thank you so much, Rene. I'm sure there's a lot more we can talk about this as well. But we've kind of really gone over with everything. But thank you. I really appreciate it. You want to plug your work?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram at Garcia Mental Health. You can also follow me on Instagram at Men Do Therapy. It's a little brand I started. And then, of course, on LinkedIn, I'm at Rene Garcia. So I'm a psychotherapist based out of Dallas, Fort Worth. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, and congratulations on all your new letters that you've just gotten. So.
Thanks. I'll save the listeners to exactly what all those letters mean. But yes, it was a good thing.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Rene, so much. But everybody else. With nothing. So yeah. So everybody else who stuck around, thank you, man. I was trying to switch off to a different screen, but thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys will join us again next time as we continue to learn how to say success in Spanglish, and learn how to better get my network going. So take care, everybody.